Hey everyone. Yes, you read that headline correctly. The government is trying to pull a fast one and start taxing us as pet owners. So stay tuned as I dive a little bit deeper into this whole story, as it is something that I just got made aware of myself. And this doesn't affect just us as reptile keepers, this affects all pet owners. So stick around. I'm Jack. This is my boy Ace. You're watching Python Addiction. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Well, today I'm just going to get right into this one. Just recently, I had seen a Facebook post that kind of made me dive into this a little bit further, and that was a bill that the state of Colorado had just drafted and submitted for approval that was regarding pet animal registration. And they're calling it the Pet Animal Registration Act. And what this act entails, and this, mind you, currently only applies for the state of Colorado, but what it entails is that a pet owner would have to pay to the state a $8.50 up to $25 per animal that they have as a pet every year. And I know that you're saying, oh, $8.50 is not much, and neither is $25. And the registration itself, to some degree, isn't absurd, but the concept behind how they're doing all of this is absolutely insane. They're guising this whole process under pet care, making sure that there is a database accessible to first responders to make sure that your pets are taken care of in the event that something happens to you and that you're not able to take care of the pet. So, in its face, it holds some merit. I won't get I won't discount that aspect of things. But in the practice and in the wording of the bill, it's absolutely ludicrous from looking at things. I'm going to show now a article that US Arc published regarding this, because this whole concept has far-reaching implications, not just for the state of Colorado, but for the entire United States if something like this does pass. So, as this article breaks down, it's each animal that you own as a pet is subject to this fee. So, this fee is not a fee, it's a tax. I don't care what terminology you want to use to color the word tax. It's a tax, it's not a fee. But they're going to charge you $8. The base is $8.50. So they give in the article that USARC wrote a good example with someone who owns fish. And again, this applies to anybody that owns any type of animal. There's a very short exclusionary list for livestock, but otherwise, if you own an animal as a pet, this will apply. So you're going to get taxed. Remember, this is a quote fee, not a tax, because they're not going to double tax you or anything like that. They don't want to get involved with all of that. You're going to fall into this whole aspect regardless of who you are if you own any pet. and you live in the state of Colorado, if this passes. And if this passes, this lays the groundwork for other states to pass similar legislation. And that there is a big part of the problem and a big part of why I'm concerned and why I'm reaching out to you guys today with this video is, instead of looking at the US Arc example, I'm going to use myself as an example, following the logic behind this law. I own right now 97 snakes that are in the guideline for this law. And again, you can reference the law in its entirety. You can read all 13 pages of this bill as proposed. I put a link to it in the description below, so you can look right along to it. US Arc also, in their article, outlines this as well. But I own 97 snakes that are at least 6 months of age that would fall into this guideline. And if I were to list a caregiver, that's the fee. $8.25 or 50 cents per ant snake. That would mean that I would owe $824.50 for those snakes every year, just as a registration fee or a tax. But I keep that many snakes. How am I feeding them? I raise my own feeders. All of the adults under this proposed bill, if it were to pass, and if it were to pass where I live, would mean that all of my adult rodents would also be subject to this same registration fee. And for me, that's approximately about 128 rodents, counting all of my adult rats, mice, and ASF. Which would mean that at 128, that's $1,088 additionally in fees that I would have to pay to cover the rodents. But I'm not done yet. I also have 2 dogs. So I'd owe another $17 for those 2 dogs. So in total, every single year, if a law like this passed, and it were also passed where I live in New York, I would owe $1,929.50 per year for my pets, as long as I actually denote and assign a person as a caregiver. Mind you, I already have 2 people listed as a caregiver. And it cost me what it costs to print a piece of paper. Because all I had to do was write a letter after discussing things with the people that were my caregivers that agreed to be my caregivers. All I had to do was write a letter outlining that they're the caregivers, that if something were to ever happen to me, that they have full authority, yada yada yada. I signed it, I dated it, I made copies. I include a copy with all of my medical stuff, so it's there. They will have copies of that accessible. My emergency contact stuff has them listed, so it's all taken care of already from me. Not everyone thinks about that. I will state that. So there, like I said, there is some small merit to the thought behind what they're trying to achieve, but grossly overcharging, and they're just trying to collect a fee. They're trying to collect tax. trying to get more money and raise more money that isn't subject to the regular oversight of their state's regular budget. Again, read the law or the bill as it's proposed currently. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about in how it's worded. So, for me, that $1,929.50, that's actually more than what I pay for my property taxes a year. Yeah. That's why I think this type of thing is insane, and why I think it's important for everyone, not just people in the reptile hobby, but for everyone to understand that these types of things are gross oversteps from the government. That they're not just simple things, that they are trying to get money from us and make us pay so they can have basically a discretionary fund to use however they want to cover whatever they want. And call it a conspiracy theory if you will, but when I read that they're establishing a entity, uh, a business essentially, that the governor of the state has full ownership of or full control of, and that the funds aren't part of the state's normal budget, it leads me into so many different questions. So many different questions. So, it's one of those things that I don't like. And then the other aspect of this that I don't like is if you choose not to list a caregiver, they bump that fee of $8.50 per animal up to $25 per animal. All because they're going to contact a caregiver or bring it to some type of shelter. Now, I don't know of many shelters, even around where I live, let alone in the state of Colorado, that may be equipped and properly capable of handling some reptiles. And what are they going to do if I'm not sure? Again, I'm not sure about some of the keeping laws in Colorado, like for venomous snakes and stuff like that. How are they going to handle all of that if somebody chose not to list a caregiver? The other aspect of that law that I think is absurd is the penalty if you don't register your animal every year. Per animal, a $100 fee, a $100 penalty. It just doesn't add up. And it's important that we don't let governmental overstep like this happen. It's these types of things that can put a huge burden, even more so, on the whole pet keeping industry in of itself. Because if they pass this in Colorado, other states are going to follow suit. And there are going to be people who can't afford these fees, or there are going to be people that don't have internet access or don't pay attention to Facebook or the notice. How are people going to get noticed that have a animal that's a pet that they don't have to have a normal license for? Like in most municipalities, dogs require some type of a license. Oh, cats don't generally require licenses. What happens if you have 6 cats and you don't use the internet or anything like that? How are you going to get notified that you owe this fee? How do they know that you have the animals to begin with unless you register them to start with? And then once you register, what happens how with every keeping up with it every single year? It's one question after another after another after another. It's just too much overreach, in my opinion. So let me know what you guys think as far as that goes. What's your take on all of this? Take a look again at what I've linked in the description below. I've got the US ARC article and the actual law that's listed, the bill as it's written currently. But there's supposed to be a review on February 22nd or something like that. So we'll have to wait to find out exactly where this goes. But what can you do? Well, if you're in the state of Colorado and you're a resident there, I highly suggest going to the USARC website. Go to the link that's in the description and follow the templated letters that they have in below their little article, and contact the legislation and voice your opinion. And this doesn't matter who you are as far as a pet owner. You can own snakes, you can own cats, dogs, turtles, you can have an ant colony, you could have a dubia colony. It doesn't matter. If you're in the state of Colorado and you're a pet owner, pet keeper, pet lover, you have a say because you're in the state of Colorado, then please, I implore you, go to USARC's website and submit the emails. They give a whole list of different email addresses to contact. They give you the templated letter and everything like that. Do reach out and voice that you don't support this bill, because I think it's a gross overstep. And what can you do if you're not in the state of Colorado? Share this information. Share the video that you're watching now with me discussing it. Share the website from USARC. Share the law itself. Sometimes people actually reading the verbiage and the law itself helps to really understand what they're trying to do or what they're trying to get away with. And I think it's absurd, in my opinion. But otherwise, like I said, comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this. I'm not used to doing this more off the cuff type of video because it's something that I am passionate about, especially being a reptile keeper, a pet owner of more than just reptiles. It's important to me to see that things are done right, and to see the governmental bodies thinking that they can just arbitrarily say, "Oh no, you owe us money now because you have a pet," I think is ridiculous. So, hit that like button if you liked today's video, please. And also, if you've made it this far into the video and you haven't done so already, please do hit that subscribe button. And while you're at it, click that notification icon, as that'll let you know when I push new videos. I tend to do a new video at least once a week. And just lastly, I wanted to take a minute to say thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. It means a lot for everything that you do with the support that you provide. If you're not a supporter, there's information in the description below on how to become a supporter. You can get access to some of the behind the scenes stuff, like what I'm doing currently with my reptile room build, So you can kind of get a little bit of a sneak peek on some of what I'm doing there if you join up, and it's $1 a month at the low end, and there's different tiers, so you can support however you want. The last thing that I wanted to touch base on was the photo mosaic that I'm doing in memory of Brian for the Reptile Army thing. I am actually working on all of the photo edits right now. As of right now, I've got about 670 photos total that were submitted that I've gone through. I've done preliminary edits on all of those photos. I'm going through secondary edits and starting to get everything set into the video format and get the actual mosaic done. I'm working with a couple of different people to try to get something composed for the audio still, so I'm working on that. I'm looking at a project timeline as of right now of probably another 4 to 6 weeks to get it all done, as I do want to make sure to take my time and get it done right and not rush the project. So I appreciate all of your support, and if you have something you still want to submit, please do not hesitate to reach out. The contact information is going to be on that original video. I'll link the original video in the description here below so you can find it very quickly. Otherwise, tune in next time. Thanks for joining. I love you all. I'm Jack. This here is my boy Ace, and you've been watching Python Addiction.